You walk into any tech conference these days and you'll hear the same narrative on every panel. AI is transforming business. The slides are impressive, the case studies are real, and the language is bold. Disruption, reinvention, exponential value. But then you go back to your office, you look at your own data infrastructure, and the question that appears is, okay, but how do we actually do this in our organization with our systems, our mess, and our constraints? That is where the disconnect starts to show up in the boardroom. In leadership meetings, you ask a very reasonable question. What is the concrete business impact of our AI initiatives so far? And the answers are often vague. You hear we are in a learning phase, or the team is iterating, or we need more time to see the full potential. That might be acceptable for 1 or 2 quarters, but at some point, the CFO will ask whether these AI line items should be redirected to something with a clearer and more immediate return. The risk is not that AI is overhyped in general. The risk is that your organization writes it off as another hype cycle because it never sees value in your specific context. So, this video is not about the next shiny AI tool or the latest model announcement. It's about the less glamorous but absolutely critical part of the story: how to prepare your company's data so that AI can actually generate measurable value and not just impressive demos. I'll explain what that really means at a strategic level, which decision you as leaders need to take ownership of, and why the organizations that are truly winning with AI are not the ones with the most pilots, but the ones with the strongest, most intentional data foundations. What we're seeing right now is a pattern. Companies rushed into AI pilots with real conviction. But here's what happens at the 6 month mark when the initial momentum fades and someone on the board actually asks for specifics. Where is the ROI? Did we increase revenue? Did we reduce cost? Did we reduce risk? And very often the honest answer is silence, followed by, we have some really strong demos, but nothing that's moved the needle on the P&L yet. Now, that answer might be fine for an experimental project, but when you're talking about significant budget allocation, it starts to wear thin. And so you see it happening everywhere right now. Companies are pumping the brakes on AI initiatives, not because they think AI is fundamentally broken, but because they're starting to realize something uncomfortable. Their pilots work in isolation and they don't integrate into actual business operations. The data is fragmented. The definitions are inconsistent between teams. The model is accurate in testing, but it fails the moment it touches production data. Something always breaks. Here is the pattern that ties all of this together. The bottleneck is never the AI technology itself. The bottleneck is almost always the data. The company lacks a unified view of their customer. They can't define a consistent metric for revenue. They don't have a single source of truth for what active means. And when you try to build an AI system on top of that foundation, it doesn't fail because the model is bad. It fails because the data is unreliable, and no AI system can be better than the data it learns from. That realization is hitting boards and leadership teams right now. And when it hits, the decision often becomes, should we keep investing in pilots or should we finally invest in the infrastructure that would make AI actually work? It's a leadership decision and not an IT decision because it requires choosing between the short term satisfaction of another demo and the longer term unsexy work of getting your data house in order. From a corporate perspective, the main mistake is this: we invest in AI like a marketing campaign, not like infrastructure. But far fewer companies can clearly answer three basic yet fundamental questions. First, where do our critical enterprise data actually live today? Which systems, which databases, which cloud instances, which shared drives, which third party platforms? Second, in what shape are they? What is the quality, consistency, and structure of that data? Are there duplicates? Are there gaps? Are there fields that are supposed to be numeric but contain text, or dates that are stored as strings, or customer IDs that don't match between CRM and billing? Third, can we explain in plain business language what each core metric really means? When we say active customer, do sales, finance, and product all mean the same thing? When we say revenue, are we talking about recognized revenue, billed revenue, or cash collected? When we say churn, is that based on last login date, subscription end date, or support ticket sentiment? If your reality is something like ERP here, CRM there, a lot of Excel files on a shared drive, some PDFs on SharePoint, a few Google Sheets that finance team uses for forecasting, and a couple of SaaS tools that nobody really governs, then you are not ready for serious AI. You're just experimenting, and that experimentation will eventually hit a wall when someone asks for a board level business case. Let's be clear, without a modern data platform, AI in the enterprise will stay at best at proof of concept level. It will never graduate from the lab to the core business because the lab can tolerate messy data, but the core business cannot. The realistic approach today is not just a traditional data warehouse, but a modern data lakehouse. This is a term you will hear more and more, and it is worth understanding at a strategic level. A lakehouse is essentially a unified home for your data that can store both structured and unstructured information in a single governed environment. Structured data means your traditional tables, customers, transactions, products, invoices. Unstructured data means everything else: emails, contracts, support tickets, call transcripts, log files, images, video, customer reviews, sensor data, and so on. Why should leadership care? Because a properly built lakehouse delivers three things that are essential for AI at scale. First, it reduces data silos. Instead of having your customer data scattered across 5 different systems, each with its own format and its owner, you have one place where you can see the entire customer journey. That means you can make decisions from a single consistent picture, and you can finally answer questions that require joining data from multiple sources. Second, it creates a shared source of truth for KPIs. Because all the data lives in one place, you can define metrics once and reuse them everywhere. That means when the board asks for churn rate, you have one number and not 5 different versions depending on who ran the report. Third, and crucially for AI, it gives data scientists and LLMs access to rich, raw data and not broken exports or summary tables. AI models, especially large language models and deep learning systems, thrive on volume and variety. They need the raw material, the actual text of contracts, the actual logs from devices, the actual transcripts from calls. A lakehouse preserves all of that while still letting you build clean, governed views on top. You do not need to be technical to drive this. You do need at board and C level to treat the data platform the way you would treat a core ERP or a core banking system. A 3 to 5 year strategic investment with clear governance, dedicated resources, and oversight from the highest level. It is not an IT side project, it's a business capability. Most companies are used to living in the world of structured data: tables, rows, columns, keys, indexes. That is the world of relational databases, data warehouses, and traditional business intelligence. It's comfortable because it's familiar. But the majority of new enterprise data created today is unstructured: text, emails, messages, call transcripts, documents, PDF, contracts, images, video, audio from customer service calls, sensor streams, log files. Some estimates say that up to 70 or 80% of new data is unstructured, and that share is only growing. At leadership level, that has two major implications. First, if your data platform only sees structured data, you are blind to a huge share of real information. You're missing the nuance in customer complaints, the obligations buried in legal contracts, the early warning signals in system logs, the sentiment in social media mentions. All of that is data that could be used to train models, to build predictive analytics, to power AI agents, but only if you capture it, store it, and govern it. Second, if you have no strategy of how unstructured data are stored, classified, tagged, and governed, then AI has nothing solid to read and reason over. It is one thing to say we will build a RAG system on top of our documents. It is another to actually know which documents are authoritative, which are obsolete, which contain sensitive information, which are version controlled, and which are just random PDFs that someone uploaded to a SharePoint folder 3 years ago. To put it simply, unstructured data is not a liability. It's an asset, but only if you treat it as such. That means policies, metadata, ownership, and lifecycle management. It means asking what is the single source of truth for contracts, for product specifications, for customer communications. And if the answer is we don't have one, then that is where you need to start before you even think about AI. Even if you solve the lakehouse problem, there is another critical layer that most organizations miss: the semantic layer. This is the layer that translates raw data into business meaning, and it is perhaps the most important piece for making AI trustworthy at scale. Let me give you a concrete example you will recognize. Many of you have ERPs in their organization, like SAP, JD Edwards, Oracle, and so on. The database tables may have cryptic names. To a developer, those are just table names. To the business, that might be the customer master, might be sales order, might be business units. But that knowledge lives in people's heads and not in the system. So every time you want to build a report, you need someone who knows the mapping. Every time you want to build an AI model, you need someone to explain what each column means. That does not scale. A semantic layer fixes that. It's essentially a set of definitions, mappings, and business rules that sit on top of your raw data and say, when we say customer, we mean this table with these filters and this logic for what counts as active versus churned. It defines metrics like revenue, cost, margin, churn, and it does so in a way that is consistent across the entire organization. Why does this matter for AI? Because modern AI agents and large language models do not understand cryptic table names. They understand concepts. If you want an AI agent to answer the question, what is our churn rate in the enterprise segments in region X, the agent needs to know exactly where to find the data, what filters to apply, and what churn actually means in your business. The semantic layer is what makes that possible. It's the bridge between raw data and intelligent reasoning. From leadership perspective, investing in a semantic layer is not a technical luxury. It's a business necessity. It's how you ensure that when the CFO asks for revenue, the CMO asks for customer count, and the COO asks for operational efficiency, they are all using the same definitions. It's also how you ensure that when an AI system generates an insight, you can trust it because you know exactly what data it used and how it interpreted it. All of these pieces fit together into what we call a value pyramid. This is a simple but powerful mental model for how you move from raw data to real business value with AI. At the bottom of the pyramid is the foundation, a modern data platform and centralization. This is where you bring together all your data sources, build your lakehouse, enforce quality and governance, and create the plumbing that everything else depends on. Without this, you cannot scale. You can have a brilliant AI model running on a laptop, but it will never talk to your production systems in a reliable way. In the middle of the pyramid is the semantic layer: business definitions, metric logic, and governance. This is where you translate raw bits into business meaning. This is where you answer the questions: what do we mean by customer? What do we mean by revenue? What do we mean by risk? This layer takes time to build because it requires collaboration between business and data teams. It's not a one off project, it's an ongoing process of curation and maintenance. Only once you have those two layers in place, you can responsibly build the top of the pyramid, AI use cases that generate measurable business outcomes. And here is the key: the outcomes must be defined in financial terms. Either the AI helps you increase revenue, helps you reduce cost, or helps you mitigate a potentially expensive risk. If you cannot draw a direct line from the AI output to one of those three outcomes, you are not creating value. You're running a science experiment. This is why so many companies are pulling back on AI pilots. The board of directors eventually asks, "This is really fancy and it seems to work, but what is it doing to our bottom line?" If you cannot answer that question with confidence, you cannot assure future funding, you cannot claim that AI is having a transformative effect on the business. The pyramid model gives you a practical way to stage your investments and to know when you're ready to move from foundation to semantics to AI. There is a temptation to think of AI as a panacea, a miracle cure that will solve all your problems if you just sprinkle it on top of your business. That mindset leads to disappointment because AI is not magic. It's a powerful partner, but a partner that needs clarity, data, and focus. The right way to think about AI is as a precision tool. It excels at pattern recognition at scale across vast amounts of data. It can find signals that humans would miss. It can automate repetitive cognitive tasks. It can generate insights that spark new ideas. But it cannot do any of that effectively if it does not have clean, well organized data, clear definitions, and a well scoped business problem. The right sequence for leadership is not "here is our AI, where can we throw it now?" The right sequence is we have identified 3 to 5 concrete business levers we want to improve in the next 12 to 24 months. We have strong data foundations. We have a semantic layer that defines our metrics. Now, can AI help us move those levers better, faster, or cheaper than we could without it? That is a very different conversation. It moves AI from the realm of experimentation to the realm of strategic execution. So, if you sit on a board or in a C suite or any role that approves AI investments, the key question is no longer which AI tool should we buy next. The questions you should be asking are: first, have we invested in a modern, unified data platform that can handle both structured and unstructured data at scale? Second, do we have a shared semantic layer and common definitions around our core KPIs so that everyone, human and machine, is speaking the same language? Third, do we know exactly which 3 to 5 critical business metrics we want to move in the next 12 to 24 months? And have we scoped how AI could help us do that? If the answer to any of this is not yet, then that is where your next AI budget should go, not into the impressive demo or the next vendor pitch. Because at the end of the day, AI does not win just because it looks impressive in a slide deck. It wins when you're using your own data. It can clearly and repeatedly prove that it improves the heart of your business, revenue, cost, and risk. Thank you for watching. If you found this useful, please share it with your board or your leadership team. And if you want to go deeper into any of these topics, data lakehouse, architecture, semantic layer design, or AI use cases selection, let me know in the comments or reach out directly.